Hi guys, it's April and I garden down in southeast Nebraska, zone 6A, and this is one of my weekly garden tours. This is the second tour of June. It has started to get very hot and very humid here, so things are really starting to grow, and we're starting to see pests. Yay! But I'm just gonna take you around the garden and show you a few things that I'm excited about or that are changing in my garden. The first thing I'm gonna point out is we still don't have any pumpkins coming up. We don't have any coming up over there either. The funny thing is, I was walking around the garden the other day, and I believe on the last garden tour I showed you the angel hair squash that had actually started to come up, and it was one of the 3 varieties of squash that I had planted in ground from seed, and I was really excited because I've been struggling with direct seeding for the last several years. But the other day I was just walking around the garden and I looked at that spot and all of the plants were gone. So my guess is the same thing happened with these pumpkin up here, is that they did sprout at some point, but they were eaten so quickly that I didn't even get a chance to see them. So I have restarted all of those in pots, so maybe I can manage them a little better and make sure they actually come up, and then once they're at a significant size, I can put them in the ground and maybe actually get some squash off the plants because they're just disappearing. I don't know if it's some kind of bug, if it's birds, if it's animals. We don't have a lot, well, okay, that's a lie. I do have some voles around here, so it could be voles, it could be roly-polies. I don't know. They're just there one day and gone the next. But my hope is that, like these pumpkin right here, that I will be able to sprout those seeds, and once they get to a significant size, just put them in the ground because these are thriving. Nothing is touching these yet. I do need to go in and maybe start wrapping the bases of these plants so that the vine borers and things can't get in. We are keeping our eye out for squash bugs and other nefarious creatures like that. So far we're doing okay. I'm loving how big these are getting. The dill over here is definitely starting to flower. And all of my potted tomatoes are looking fairly good. You can kind of see the pepper in the back there. And then I've got lemongrass and one of my, ooh, why is the name? It's just gone. It's gone. It's gone. It's a flower. Geranium. Scented geranium right there. And then you got this pot set up too. This one doesn't seem to be doing as well as the 2 clusters at the front. I think they just get the elements a little bit more here. But we are still forming peppers. I'm keeping my eye on that pepper. It may be one of the first of the season. So here we have the carrots. The carrots are really putting on size, and in the back there you can see one of the grape plants that's almost to a point where I can start trellising it, and some weeds. I need to go through and do a lot of weeding. It's just not been a good week for getting out here, but that will change. We have a couple good mornings that I think I can get out here and I can just hit a lot of the weeding. I keep mentioning these eggplants in all of my garden tours because these are the guys that are really trying to get my attention. I think I'm fighting a couple of things going on here. Something with water, something with nutrients, something with elements of some kind. I don't know. Some of the leaves are looking kind of wonky, but I'm keeping my eye on them. Otherwise, we have the garlic that I'm keeping a close eye on because I'm guessing at the end of the month, at least 3 of these are going to be ready to harvest. The rest of them might not be until the end of the summer, since I did plant them in spring instead of in the fall. Do need to go through and deadhead some of my marigolds, but that squash plant, which I believe is a zucchini, is doing really well over there. Otherwise, I've got all of my paste tomatoes. The saucy lady in the Midnight Roma don't seem to be putting on the same amount of size as all the rest of them. And my compost might still be a little active because all of them are looking kind of scraggly, but I think they'll still produce, so I'm watching everything. The onions, however, there are a few garlic in here. There's maybe 6 garlics, but the rest of these are onions, and they are looking so good. I can't wait to start harvesting some of this. I could technically start using it, but I really want them to bulb up. So I'm waiting, I'm holding off. It's been hard. Otherwise, we have our indeterminate tomatoes, which all got their first trim. You can see some of them in the back there. I mean, all of these beds are pretty much the same. Don't have any fruit forming quite yet. But this is what I'm talking about with some of my other tomato plants. I'm thinking it's my compost and the watering habit, just because we've just been so wet and humid. Yeah, I need to come and cut some of that off. Some of them are worse than others. The beds that I topped up the most, like these new beds, and the paste bed that I just showed you, those are the beds that are really showing a lot of that leaf curl compared to other beds. I'll walk you over to some of the second year beds that don't look nearly as bad, but I put maybe 1-2 dumps of compost on top of those. So that's why I'm thinking that maybe it's my compost. Something in my compost, or maybe the compost was still a little too warm, and so the tomato plants specifically and the eggplants, possibly the pepper plants, it's all of those nightshades that are really showing issue with everything else. I mean, I'm still having all of my onions and the grasses and weeds come up perfectly fine. So there's something specific to the nightshades that they're struggling a little bit, but I think they'll still produce. I'm hoping they still produce. It's just been a really weird season so far. But here's what I'm talking about. This is one of my second year beds, and you're seeing a little bit of that leaf issue, but not as bad as that new bed that I just pointed out, which is all of the compost that I got in this year. And the same can be said about this bed. You've got a little bit of it going on, but it's not as bad as that first bed. I am starting to get some flowers. Give that a little shake. So I'm just keeping my eye on it. We do have a lot of calendula that are starting to open up. Got one right there. There's a white one. Guessing that one is going to be 2, because I don't have any yellow ones. So I'm guessing that's how that starts. But the herbs are looking good. Well, like I said, I use the exact same compost for everything. but it's mainly just the nightshades where I see some really weird leaf stuff going on. This bed over here, I think I need to come in and give this one a good water. It's not thriving nearly as well as the other herb bed. So that's a mental note to myself. You can see the rest of the tomatoes. You've got some fungus right there. That's fun. Oh, and it looks like I've got, hold on. Did you just see that? I just saw that. So, one of my tomato clips just hanging out on the ground. I have zero idea where that tomato clip came from. And I don't know. Maybe I just dropped it, but why would I have not seen that for days? And now I see it. That doesn't make sense. It could be that one of my flock managed to get it off a plant. I don't know, because see, we got all of those trellised up. Same with over here. So I couldn't tell you where this clip came from. I'm going to show you these pots real quick. We've got a couple of dahlias, some sunflowers, stevia, and a pepper plant. And sadly, still no zinnias. But I am working on cleaning up the fountain. I need to get a new pump though, because that pump is horrible. Here we have my runner beans starting to come up. And then I also have some cucumbers that are looking good. Oh, but see here, some of the beans are starting to show that leaf curl. It's gotta be something in the compost. Fudge, okay. Well, it might be an interesting season this year. That just does not make me super, super excited. But the squash don't seem to mind. This one is the Acote green, which is kind of like a butternut, but it's got a green inside. And on the other side, I think, is a butternut of some kind. And then I got a zucchini there, which is starting to create a little bit of ground cover for all these pepper plants. But as you can see, the pepper plants are starting to add foliage to where they got stripped when we had that massive storm and the winds that just came through and stripped everything, which is making me happy. It might be quite a while before I get any actual peppers, but I still might get peppers. So I'm watching all of this. Like I said, I need to deadhead my marigolds. And then we've got the potatoes that are growing fairly large right now. And this is another zucchini, which is kind of hiding this pepper plant. He might get smothered out between the calendula and that squash. I'll have to keep an eye on that. But even these ones are starting to grow out. All I can smell right now, though, is this cilantro that's going to seed. Got the little cilantro flowers. I am gonna let this completely go to seed so I can harvest some coriander. And then I'll probably just cut that down. I won't pull it. I don't want to disturb the pepper roots, but I will give this pepper plant some breathing room. And then here we've got another, this is a honey patch. And I got my tomatoes. See, it's one of those things, like the further it gets down into the soil, the further it roots, that's when, because those leaves look perfectly fine. Just something for me to watch. But it looks like this eggplant over here, while it doesn't look the best, is starting to get flowers. So that's exciting. But I suppose I can take you to underneath the deck. Before we get all the way over there, this is the other cluster of pots. I don't think I showed it to you, but it looks like the rest of the pots around the fire pit. So there's this one as well. Okay, so we are under and next to the deck now. I did top up this pot a little bit and replant some beans. So I'm hoping I will get some beans coming up in this pot eventually, but we'll see. The basil is looking better, but I did just realize that that is starting to flower, so I need to pull those off. Otherwise, we've got both of these tomato plants doing fairly well. Ooh, since I have this clip, I can clip up that one tomato plant because it has not been clipped up yet. So give me a second to do that. Okay, where is my leader? Excuse me, pardon me. There we go. So that'll at least keep it upright until it starts climbing in a little more and I can start twirling it around that trellis. And I'll keep the air flowing through that. I did come through and harvest nearly all of the peas off of these plants. There are a few that are still growing at the top. They're still tiny. We've got some bigger ones that are starting to form. But I just had a day where I just came through and pulled them all. I ended up blanching them real quick and then flash freezing them. And now I have about 4 different servings of peas that I can throw into stir fry whenever. The beets. Let's see if I can find a good one. Saw it the other day. Here we go. They're starting to head up. So I'm definitely keeping my eye out on those. My mom is requesting at least a jar of them so that later this year she can make some pickled eggs. But I did come through and I finally said, okay, enough is enough. All of the radishes have started to go to seed. There's no way I'm getting any of those daikons. Let me at least pull some of them so that the beets have room to spread. But eventually I'll come through and just pull the rest of these and decide. Maybe I'll do another round of beets. I think I kind of like that idea. So that'll probably be what happens in the next week or so. But here we have a tomato plant. I keep making this camera go out of focus. Tomato plant, pepper plant, an eggplant, and some beans. There are some really small cabbages that are still in there that I didn't pull out when I did my big cabbage harvest. I don't know if they'll actually even head up, especially with how warm we have gotten recently, but I left them there just in case. Plus, it creates a little bit of coverage for the rest of the plants. But this is basically just a bed of all of the leftover plants that I had lying around. So if they don't make it, it's fine, but also they're backup plants so that maybe I'll get a few more of whatever else is in the garden, because the pepper plant back there is a poblano, which is being smothered by the cilantro that I just showed you. And then this is a Metallica. It's a dwarf tomato. I do have it in one of the pots around the fire pit as well. It's not a super producer. I've gotten maybe 4 or 5 tomatoes off of it in the past. So having 2 isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if I can get through the pine berries, you can see right here that I have pulled at least 2 varieties of the lettuce because they were starting to bolt. And I'm starting to think about what I want to put in this bed next. I'm contemplating if the angel hair spaghetti squash does actually come up, putting it in that corner because it's going to be a little bit more protected than I had it in ground, and then where I had it in ground, maybe putting in okra. It's kind of where I'm going right now, but I don't know for sure. But if I come through here very carefully, you can see this lovely mess right here. This cilantro is obviously starting to go to seed. I probably just need to pull it if I'm honest. And then that one is too. I have a spinach back there that is definitely starting to go to seed. But this one up here is still producing really well. So we've been eating off of that. See, there you can see the spinach that's gone to seed. Otherwise, I am keeping my eye out on these pots. The zinnia has definitely not made it, but the peppers are starting to come back. I might have to do a little bit of watering because it looks like the calendula aren't doing so well. And I believe that was a zinnia too. So all of the zinnias have decided that these pots are not for them, which is fine. But the coleus is doing pretty good. And then I have a dahlia, and I'm trying to get this stevia to come back, but we'll see if that takes. I'm going to take you back around here though, so we can see the peach tree. I need to cut off the water shoots there. Please ignore that. It's another thing on my list. But this is the spot right here where last time I showed you at least 6 little angel-haired squash doing their thing, but have now disappeared. Just gone. And the blueberries look like they need maybe a little bit more of the acidifier because they're starting to look a little lime greeny there. However, the garden as a whole is looking really, really good and is starting to fill in and will be wild within like 2 weeks. So that is my garden as it looks right now. As you can tell, it's a work in progress. I think I forgot to mention when I was showing you there's some bamboo stakes in that pink lettuce bed that I planted some beans on. Forgot to mention that, but I'll just throw that in here so I remember that for later. But I do like to do garden tours about once a week so that I can see how the garden has changed. It's my record keeping so that I can go back later and not necessarily compare year from year, but to remember that it kind of looked like this last year, but it was still okay. We still got through it. Whatever's going weird in the garden, there's ways around it. So this is just my little record keeping log. But if you would like to follow me on the journey of this year's garden, feel free to subscribe down below. Hit the bell to do all the things to get all of the notifications. And I do have an Instagram and Threads account, so you can follow me over there as well. I do try to keep that up to date with what I'm harvesting, how I'm preserving, and what I'm doing with everything that's coming from the garden. But I will say, with as much frizz that is in my hair right now, you can tell the humidity is very, very high. I am hoping that it rains. We have been in the 80s, almost 90, with high humidity for the last several days. I need it just rain. I want the rain. But with that, I hope you enjoyed seeing where my garden is at right now. It's not perfect, but it's mine. And I do hope I will see you guys again in another video in our Heart to Beautiful Faces. Bye.